My grandma left me her inheritance and cut out my dad and brother. Now, I finally learned the reason. I'm 27, and my life has become a soap opera that I didn't sign up for. A little over a year ago, my grandma passed away, leaving behind her house in upstate New York, worth over $600,000 and $250,000 in cash and assets. It was devastating to lose her. She'd always been a quiet but steady presence in my life, the kind of person who seemed to have wisdom for every situation. I remember our last conversation, just weeks before she passed. We were sitting in her garden, the autumn leaves falling around us. "You know, Ethan," she said, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea, "sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we keep closest to our hearts." I didn't understand what she meant then. I do now. What I didn't know was how much she'd prepared for her departure. After the funeral, where Dad gave a tearful eulogy and Lucas stood stoically beside him, I got a call from her lawyer. The voice on the phone said, "I need you to come in for a private reading of the will." I figured it was standard procedure. Maybe some paperwork. What I didn't expect was to walk into a room with my two aunts, Clara and Linda, and hear that my grandma had left 1/3 of her estate to each of them, and the last third to me. Me. Not my dad. Not my brother Lucas. Me. "This can't be right," I remember saying, my voice barely above a whisper. The lawyer, Mr. Davidson, adjusted his glasses. "I assure you, your grandmother was very clear about her wishes." I was stunned. I wasn't married, didn't have kids, and was still figuring out my career. Meanwhile, my dad was a small business owner, a father of two, and the type of guy who never missed a family gathering. Why would she leave it to me? I barely had time to process the news before Mr. Davidson slid an envelope across the table. "Your grandmother wanted you to have this," he said, his expression giving nothing away. Inside was a handwritten letter, her familiar cursive bringing tears to my eyes. But the words quickly shifted my emotions from sadness to shock. My dad wasn't Lucas's biological father. My mom had been pregnant when they met in college, and my dad had decided to raise Lucas as his own. This decision caused a massive rift in the family, with my granddad disowning my dad entirely. The letter explained that my grandma had stayed in touch with Dad secretly, but her resentment lingered. She felt my dad had betrayed the family by keeping Lucas's parentage a secret. Her decision to leave him out of the will was her way of making a statement, a way to acknowledge what she saw as the sacrifices I had made over the years. Sacrifices? I wasn't sure what she meant. I had always felt like the supporting act in a family where Lucas played the starring role. But was that what she saw too? Maybe this was her way of giving me a chance to shine, without the constant shadow of my golden stepbrother looming over me. My dad didn't take the news well. The call started almost immediately after the meeting. "Ethan, pick up the phone," his voicemail demanded. "We need to talk about this whole situation." When I finally answered, his voice was tight with anger. "What exactly did the lawyer say? Can this be contested?" "It's legally binding, Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Grandma made her wishes clear." There was a long pause before he asked, "You're going to share it with me and Lucas, right?" The question hung in the air, heavy with expectation. I thought about all the times I'd been pushed aside, all the moments where Lucas's needs came first. "I need time to think," I replied. Growing up, Lucas was always the golden child. Every soccer game had Dad on the sidelines, shouting encouragement. "That's my boy," he'd yell when Lucas scored a goal. Meanwhile, my achievements collected dust. I remember the day I won the statewide writing competition. I'd spent months perfecting my story, staying up late to get every word right. "Dad," I said at dinner, "I won first place." He barely looked up from his plate. "That's nice, son. Hey, Lucas, tell us about that scholarship interview." Now, armed with this secret, I saw the pattern more clearly than ever. My dad had spent years overcompensating for Lucas, making him feel like he belonged, but in doing so, he'd pushed me aside. My mom's reaction to the inheritance was telling. When I confronted her about the letter's contents, she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Your grandmother had her reasons," she said, busying herself with dishes that didn't need washing. "Mom, did you ever plan to tell me the truth?" Her hands stilled. Some truths are better left buried, Ethan. As the days passed, my dad's frustration boiled over. One evening, he and Lucas showed up unannounced at my apartment. "This inheritance nonsense ends tonight," my dad declared as they pushed past me into the living room. Lucas, his face red with anger, jabbed a finger at my chest. "You're being selfish, Ethan. This money should help the whole family." I laughed bitterly. "Help the whole family? You mean help you, Lucas? Everything has always been about you." "What's that supposed to mean?" he demanded. "It means I'm tired of being second best. Every achievement, every milestone. Nothing I did was ever good enough because it wasn't you doing it." The argument escalated, years of resentment bubbling to the surface. "You've been Dad's favorite since day one," I said, my voice rising. "And now you're mad because Grandma finally did something for me." Lucas sneered. "You're just jealous because Dad loves me more. At least I earned what Grandma gave me. You've been handed everything on a silver platter your whole life." The tension was unbearable, but I refused to budge. I wasn't going to let them guilt me into giving up what was rightfully mine. Then came the moment with the letter. After another heated confrontation where Dad accused me of tearing the family apart, I handed it to him. "Read it," I said quietly. Read what Grandma wanted me to know. His face paled as his eyes moved across the page, the truth sinking in. "She shouldn't have told you," he muttered, hands shaking. "It wasn't her place." "But it was your place to keep lying?" I fired back. "To keep pretending everything was fine while treating me like I didn't matter?" "I was trying to protect everyone," he pleaded. "You don't understand what it was like." "You're right. I don't understand. I don't understand how you could spend decades making me feel worthless just to make Lucas feel better about himself." For the first time, my dad looked defeated. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I never meant to..." "Save it," I cut him off. "Your actions spoke louder than any apology ever could." Lucas, however, was still in the dark. When he found out about the letter through my dad, his reaction was explosive. He burst into my apartment one evening, face contorted with rage. "What's in that letter?" he demanded. "Dad's acting weird, and Mom won't stop crying." "What did you do?" I stood my ground. "Maybe you should ask them about it. Ask them who your real father is." The color drained from his face. "What are you talking about?" "Read it yourself," I said, handing him the letter. "Everything you need to know is right there." His hands trembled as he read, and I watched as his world crumbled around him. But instead of apologizing or reflecting, he lashed out. "You had no right," he shouted. "No right to destroy our family like this." "I destroyed the family?" I laughed incredulously. "The family was built on lies long before I knew the truth." The legal battle that followed was ugly. Dad and Lucas tried everything to contest the will, hiring expensive lawyers and making wild claims about my grandmother's mental state. But in the end, they failed. My grandma's wishes stood firm, and the estate was mine. The aftermath was quiet, but final. I cut ties with my dad and Lucas, blocking their numbers and moving to a new apartment. My mom still calls occasionally, her voice heavy with unsaid words. "They miss you," she said during our last conversation. "They miss what they could get from me," I corrected her. "There's a difference. I've sold the house now and used the money to start my own business, a small publishing company focusing on new writers. It's something I've dreamed about since winning that writing competition all those years ago. Though back then, those dreams seemed impossible under the weight of family expectations. My office has a view of the city, and sometimes, when the sun sets just right, I think about my grandma and that last conversation in her garden. Maybe she knew exactly what she was doing, setting these events in motion. Maybe this was her way of finally letting the truth free. Now, for the first time, I'm living life on my terms. It's not perfect, and some days the weight of the past feels heavy, but I'm free. Free from the shadow of my golden stepbrother. Free from my dad's guilt trips, and free to build a future that's mine and mine alone. Yesterday, I received an invitation to Lucas's wedding. I sent it back, unopened. Some chapters of our lives are better left closed. and I'm ready to write my own story now.